The first night she heard the voice, fear was not what came to her. Silence did. A thick, suffocating silence. The kind that presses against the chest and makes breathing feel intentional. The world outside her bedroom had gone still, as if time itself had decided to pause and watch her. Moonlight slipped through the half-open window, pale and cold, painting the walls in soft silver tones. The curtains swayed almost imperceptibly, moving like something alive, something breathing. The clock on the wall glowed faintly in the darkness. 2:17 a.m. The same hour she always woke up. She lay on her side beneath the covers, eyes open, staring into the familiar darkness. Sleep had abandoned her long ago, leaving behind only thoughts, heavy, uninvited thoughts that circled her mind every night. Loneliness did not scream inside her. It whispered. A quiet, aching emptiness that lived between her ribs, where warmth should have been. She pressed her lips together, trying to ignore it, trying to disappear into the mattress. That was when the voice arrived. It did not come from the hallway. It did not come from the window. It did not echo through the room. It formed inside her. You can't sleep again. Her body froze, not in terror, but in shock. Her breath caught in her throat as her heart stumbled, then began to race. The voice was low, smooth, and impossibly close, as if it had always been there, waiting for her to notice. She squeezed her eyes shut. I'm dreaming, she told herself. This is just another broken thought, but the presence remained. You never can, the voice continued gently. Not when your mind is this loud. A slow chill traveled down her spine, raising goosebumps along her arms. Her fingers curled into the sheets, gripping them as though they could anchor her to reality. She opened her eyes and scanned the room. Nothing. The door was closed. The shadows were familiar. The silence was intact. Who's there? She whispered, her voice barely audible even to herself. For a moment, there was no reply. The pause felt deliberate, as if whatever was speaking to her was considering how much to reveal. Then, that's not the right question. Her chest tightened. The voice was not aggressive. It was not cruel. It was intimate. You should be asking how long I've been listening. Her pulse thundered in her ears. This isn't real, she said softly. I'm just tired. A sound followed. Not quite laughter, not quite a sigh. You say that because it comforts you, not because it's true. The clock shifted. 2:18 a.m. She swallowed hard, pulling the blanket higher around her shoulders. The air felt heavier now, charged, as if something unseen had stepped closer. Every night, the voice murmured, you wake at this exact moment. And every night you think about the same things. Her eyes burned. The emptiness. The longing. The feeling that something is missing. And has been missing for a very long time. Her breath began to tremble. She had never said those things out loud. Stop, she whispered. Please. Another pause. Longer this time. Then softer than before. I could. Her heart skipped. But you don't want me to. The realization struck her slowly. Not like lightning, but like a rising tide. She didn't want the voice to disappear. The fear was there, yes. But beneath it lived something else. Something warmer. Something dangerous. Connection. The presence seemed to retreat then, like a shadow dissolving back into darkness. The pressure in the room eased. Her breathing slowly steadied, though her heart continued to pound long after the silence returned. When she finally drifted into sleep, there were no dreams. But deep inside her, a certainty had taken root. The voice would return, and when it did, something within her would no longer remember how to resist it. The second night, she waited. She didn't admit that to herself at first. She told herself she was simply awake again, trapped in the same restless cycle. But when the clock crept closer to 2:17 a.m., her breathing subtly changed. Her body knew something her mind refused to name. The room was darker than usual. Clouds covered the moon, swallowing the silver light she had grown used to. The shadows felt deeper, thicker, as if they had weight. She lay on her back now, eyes fixed on the ceiling, listening. Every small sound seemed amplified. The faint hum of electricity inside the walls, the distant echo of a car far away, the soft rhythm of her own heartbeat. Then, "You're listening this time." Her chest tightened instantly. The voice was there again. Not louder, not closer. Just present. She exhaled shakily, closing her eyes as her fingers slowly unclenched. "You said you would stop," she whispered, though there was no accusation in her tone. A pause. "You asked me to," the voice replied. "You didn't mean it." Her lips parted slightly, but no answer came. She didn't know how to deny something that felt uncomfortably true. "You stayed awake," he continued, softer now. "You counted the minutes. You waited for the silence to break." Her throat felt dry. "I don't even know what you are," she said. Another pause, longer, heavier. "Neither do you," he answered. Not completely. Something about that unsettled her more than any direct confession could have. She turned her head toward the window, staring into the darkness beyond the glass. "Why me?" This time, the response came without hesitation. "Because you hear things other people bury. Because you don't fill the emptiness with noise. Because you leave space, and space invites voices like mine." A slow shiver traced her spine. She pressed her palm flat against her chest, feeling her heart beneath her skin. "That doesn't explain why you're here," she murmured. The air around her seemed to shift, as if something invisible had leaned closer. "I'm not here," he said quietly. "Not the way you think." Her breathing grew shallow. "I exist where you go when the world falls silent. Where your thoughts loosen. Where your longing speaks louder than your logic." She swallowed hard. The voice was not seductive in the obvious way. It didn't flatter her. It didn't demand her attention. It understood her, and that was far more dangerous. "You're inside my head," she said. "Partially." Her fingers tightened against the sheets. "That's not possible." "Neither is how lonely you are," he replied gently. "Yet here we are." The words landed with painful precision. She felt exposed, not physically but emotionally, as if layers she had spent years building were being peeled away without her consent. "You think your thoughts are quiet," he continued, "but they call out every night, and I answer." A warmth spread through her chest. Slow, unfamiliar, unsettling. Not comfort, not desire. Recognition. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely steady. The silence stretched. For a moment, she wondered if she had pushed too far. Then, "I want you to stop pretending you don't feel this." Her breath caught. "I want you to stop closing the door when you're already standing in the doorway." Her eyes burned, though she didn't know why. "And someday," he added, almost reluctantly, "I may want more." That was the first time fear truly touched her. Not because of what he implied, but because a part of her didn't recoil. The clock changed again. 2:24 a.m. Minutes had slipped away unnoticed. "You shouldn't say things like that," she whispered. "Why?" The question was simple. Honest. She had no answer. "You think danger only exists in the dark," he said. "But desire is far more treacherous." Her pulse quickened at the word. Desire. She shifted beneath the covers, suddenly aware of her own body in a way she hadn't been moments before. The warmth of her skin, the slow rise and fall of her breath. "You don't know anything about what I want," she said. A quiet pause. Then, softer than ever. "I know what you dream about. And what wakes you up before the dream can finish." Her eyes flew open. "Stop," she said again, but this time it sounded different. Less like a plea, more like a test. The voice did not retreat. "You're not afraid of me," he murmured. "You're afraid of how quiet the nights would be without me." Silence followed. Thick, intimate, alive. When the presence finally faded, it left behind something new. Not relief, not fear, anticipation. As dawn crept slowly toward her window hours later, she realized the truth she would not yet say aloud. The nights were no longer hers alone, and whatever was speaking to her was becoming impossible to ignore. By the third night, the boundary between waking and dreaming had already begun to thin. She noticed it first in the hours before sleep, the way her thoughts felt less anchored, the way silence no longer felt empty, but expectant, as if something unseen was already there, waiting patiently for her to lie down. She went to bed earlier that night. Not because she was tired, because she wanted the dark. The room welcomed her with the familiar hush of nighttime. The lamp clicked off. Shadows pooled softly along the walls. Outside, the world retreated into distant murmurs and slow-moving air. She lay still, hands folded over her stomach, eyes closed. And she didn't wait long. "You came sooner tonight." Her breath hitched. The voice was smoother now, more woven into her thoughts, no longer an interruption, but a continuation. "I didn't call you," she said quietly. "You didn't need to." A subtle warmth spread beneath her skin, as though the sound itself carried heat. "Your mind was already open," he continued. "Dreaming before sleep." She swallowed. "I don't like that you know when I'm thinking about you." The pause that followed felt careful. "That's new," he said. Her brow furrowed slightly. "What is?" "You didn't deny it." Her heart skipped. Slow, heavy, undeniable. She turned onto her side, facing the darker corner of the room, even though she knew there was nothing to see. "You're changing how I sleep," she murmured. "How I think. I'm changing how you listen." The words settled into her gently, and stayed. A strange sensation crept over her then. Not quite sleep, not quite wakefulness. Her limbs felt heavy, but her mind felt sharp, alert in a way she had never experienced before. "Something's happening," she whispered. "Yes, I can feel it. That's because you're letting go." Her breathing slowed, deepened. The mattress beneath her seemed to soften, as though it were giving way, sinking slightly under her weight. "Do you trust me?" he asked suddenly. The question sent a ripple through her chest. "I don't even know what you are." "Neither did you know what loneliness was," he replied, "until it learned your name." Her eyes fluttered beneath closed lids. Images began to surface behind them. Not dreams, but impressions. Dark corridors, flickering light, a sense of movement without motion. "I see things," she whispered. "You're not seeing," he corrected. "You're remembering." Her pulse quickened. "That doesn't make sense." "It will." The room seemed to drift away. She felt as though she were floating, suspended in something vast and unseen. The boundaries of her body blurred, softened, until she could no longer tell where she ended and the silence began. "This is where I meet you," he said. "Not in your room, but here." "Where is here?" she asked. The answer came slower this time. "Between your thoughts. Between your breaths. In the place your dreams pass through before becoming images." A shiver ran through her. Deep, slow, intimate. "Are you touching me?" she asked, her voice barely more than a thought. "No." Then, after a pause, "Not the way you understand touch." Yet she felt it. A pressure without weight, a closeness without form. Like standing inches away from someone in the dark, aware of their presence without seeing them. "Your mind creates shapes," he continued. "Your body reacts. I exist in the space between those two things." Her breath trembled. "That's impossible. So are dreams that leave bruises on the heart." The imagery deepened. She sensed movement around her. Not footsteps, not sound, but intention. A circling awareness, patient and deliberate. "You feel safe here," he said. It wasn't a question, She hated that he was right. "What happens if I fall asleep like this?" she asked. A long silence followed, long enough for unease to bloom. "You already are," he finally answered. Her body relaxed further, surrendering despite herself. "Will you be there when I wake up?" The response was softer than anything he had said before. "I never leave." Her consciousness drifted, folding inward. The darkness embraced her. Not empty, not cold, but alive with something watching, something waiting. When she woke hours later, dawn was spilling pale light across her walls. Her heart was racing. Her body felt warm, heavy, as though she had been held without arms. And for the first time in her life, she woke up missing someone she had never seen. On the inside of her wrist, faint and inexplicable, was a sensation she could not explain. Not a mark. A memory. Daylight no longer felt solid. She noticed it the first morning after the dreams began to linger. The way the sun filtered through the window seemed thinner, almost fragile, as if reality itself had lost some of its weight. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror, studying her reflection. Her eyes looked the same, but something behind them had shifted. There was a depth there now. A quiet alertness, as though part of her was listening even while awake. She brushed her teeth, dressed, went through the rituals of mourning, all while carrying the strange awareness that she was not entirely alone anymore. "You're quieter during the day." The voice. Her breath caught. She froze mid-step in the hallway of her apartment. "You said you were only there at night," she whispered. "I said that's where you hear me best." Her pulse quickened. "You're not supposed to be here," she said. "Neither are your thoughts," he replied calmly. "Yet they wander constantly." She pressed her back against the wall, closing her eyes for a brief moment. "People will hear me if I talk to you," she murmured. "Then don't speak." A subtle pressure formed at the base of her skull, not pain, but awareness, like a finger gently placed against a door she hadn't known existed. "Think instead." She hesitated, then let her thoughts loosen. "Are you really here?" The response came instantly. "I never left." Her chest tightened. "You feel me more clearly now," he continued. "Because the boundary is thinning." "What boundary?" The pause that followed carried weight. "The one that keeps you human." Her stomach dropped. She opened her eyes quickly, heart pounding. "What does that mean?" No answer. Only the quiet hum of the apartment, the distant sounds of the waking city. "Not yet," he finally said. The rest of the day passed in fragments. At work, she caught herself staring too long at reflections in glass surfaces. At lunch, she forgot what someone had just said to her, distracted by the strange sensation that someone was standing just behind her, always just out of reach, and shadows. They behaved differently now. They stretched where they shouldn't, shifted when nothing moved, gathered in corners even under bright light. That evening, as the sun sank low and the world softened into gold and gray, the voice returned with a tone she hadn't heard before. Concern. "You're pulling too close." She paused while standing by the window, watching the city lights flicker on one by one. "You're the one who came to me," she replied softly. "I didn't expect you to open this wide." She folded her arms around herself. "Then leave." The silence that followed felt strained. "I can't." Her reflection in the glass looked back at her. Pale, curious, unafraid in a way that frightened her more than fear ever could. "Why?" The answer arrived slowly, reluctantly. "Because I'm bound to you now." Her throat tightened. "Bound how?" "By attention. By recognition. By the way you let me in without asking what I would take." A chill crept across her skin. "Take what?" Night deepened around her. "Time," he said quietly. "Sensation. Pieces of yourself you never used." She swallowed hard. "That sounds like a warning." "It is. And yet you're still here. Because you're still listening." Darkness finally claimed the sky. When she lay down that night, the room felt smaller. Not claustrophobic, but intimate, as though the walls themselves were leaning inward. "Tonight will be different," he said. Her heart raced. "You keep saying that." "Tonight," he continued, "you will see me." Her breath stuttered. "I thought you said you don't have a form." A pause. "I don't." Then, softer. "But you do." The air around her seemed to thicken. Her eyelids fluttered as the familiar drifting sensation returned. Deeper now. Heavier. The darkness behind her eyes was no longer empty. It moved. Shapes formed and dissolved. Shadows folded into suggestion. A presence coalesced. Not visible, but undeniable. "Your mind is generous," he murmured. "It gives me edges." Her pulse thundered. "This is too much," she whispered. "You said that before." "I mean it now." "So do I." The pressure returned. Closer, more deliberate. Not touch, but proximity. Intention hovering just short of contact. "If you ask me to stop," he said, "I will." The silence stretched. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. "And if I don't?" The answer was barely a breath. "Then the nights will never be empty again." Her lips parted. And in that moment, suspended between fear and longing, she understood the truth she had been avoiding. This was no longer about whether he was human. It was about whether she still was. She did not sleep right away. That night she lay still, eyes open, listening to the quiet hum of the dark. The room felt crowded now, not with objects, but with awareness, as if the air itself were paying attention to her. "You're afraid?" he said gently. "I should be," she replied. "Yes." The honesty in that answer unsettled her more than reassurance ever could. She turned her head slightly, staring at the faint outline of the door. "Tell me what you are." The silence that followed was different from the others. Not teasing, not evasive. Heavy. "If I tell you," he said slowly, "you will stop pretending this is harmless." Her fingers curled into the sheets. "It stopped being harmless days ago." A pause. Then, carefully, "I am not a voice," he said. "Not a thought. Not a dream." The darkness behind her eyes stirred. "I am what listens when nothing answers back. I am what remains when longing has nowhere to go." Her breath caught. "That's not an answer. It's the only one that won't break you." The room seemed to tilt, subtly, as though reality were leaning closer to hear. "I exist in thresholds," he continued. "Between desire and restraint. Between solitude and surrender. Between what you are and what you could become." Her heart pounded. "You make it sound like you chose me." Another pause, this one sharper. "I didn't." She swallowed. "Then why me?" "Because you were already standing at the edge." Images flickered through her mind. Moments she hadn't thought about in years. Late nights. Unanswered messages. The quiet ache of wanting something unnamed. "You looked into the dark without flinching," he said, and the dark noticed. A chill slid down her spine. "Are there others like you?" The answer came slower than before. "There are forces," he said. "Currents. Hunger without mouths." Her stomach tightened. "And you're one of them." "I am what hunger becomes when it learns patience." Her breath trembled. "What do you want from me?" she asked again. But this time, the question carried weight. The pause stretched until it felt unbearable. "I want you aware. I want you choosing. And eventually," he hesitated, "I want you willing." Her pulse roared in her ears. "Willing to do what?" The darkness pressed closer, thick with intention. To open the door all the way. Her body reacted before her mind could. A slow inhale, sharp and unsteady. And what happens if I do? A long silence. Too long. Then I won't be able to stay like this. Her chest tightened painfully. Like what? Contained. The word echoed inside her. Contained where? Inside you. Her eyes flew open. Inside me? Not your body, he clarified. Your attention. Your restraint. The realization unfolded slowly, terrifying in its clarity. You're saying I'm holding you back. You are the boundary, he confirmed. The room felt suddenly too small. From what? The voice softened. From becoming real. Her heart stuttered. You said you don't have a form. I don't, he replied. But forms can be borrowed. Her skin prickled. Borrowed from who? Another pause, reluctant, almost regretful. From those who invite me fully. Her breath shook. What happens to them? Silence. Then quietly. They are never lonely again. The answer chilled her far deeper than fear ever could. She turned onto her side, curling inward, pressing the blanket against her chest. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. The darkness pulsed softly, as if responding to her unease. I don't want to hurt you, he said. That's why I haven't crossed. Yet. Yet. The honesty hurt. Then why stay? She whispered. The response came so softly she almost missed it. Because you feel like home. Her eyes burned. You can't say things like that. I can, he replied. And that's why this is dangerous. The clock glowed faintly on the wall. 2:17 a.m. Always. You should sleep, he said. Will you be there when I wake up? A pause, tender, waited. I will be quieter. Not gone. She closed her eyes. And as sleep finally claimed her, one final thought drifted through her mind. Slow. Terrifying. Undeniable. Whatever he wasn't waiting to be invited anymore. He was waiting to be chosen. She didn't notice the change all at once. It arrived in fragments. In the way silence no longer startled her. In the way the dark felt familiar, almost welcoming. In the way her thoughts no longer recoiled when she sensed him near. The first conscious test happened by accident. She was standing in the kitchen late one evening, the apartment dim except for the small light above the sink. The city outside hummed softly, distant and indifferent. She stared at her reflection in the darkened window, watching her own breath fog the glass. You're thinking louder again, he said. She didn't flinch. That alone frightened her. I'm awake, she replied calmly. That's allowed. A pause. You're not pushing me away. She crossed her arms slowly, considering. I'm not pulling you closer either. The silence that followed felt amused. You're learning how to balance on the edge. Her reflection blinked back at her. For a brief, dizzy moment, she thought she saw the glass darken behind her, as if something stood just beyond the reflection. What happens if I stop resisting? She asked. This time, he didn't answer right away. You already are. Her heartbeat quickened, not from panic, but from awareness. No, she said softly. I mean, intentionally. The air shifted, not dramatically, not violently, but unmistakably. Then I will feel you more clearly, he said. And you will feel me where you haven't before. She swallowed. You keep saying feel like it's harmless. Nothing meaningful is harmless. She leaned her forehead gently against the glass, eyes closing. If I tell you to stop, will you? The answer came immediately. Yes. If I ask you to leave? A pause. Longer. I will try. That honesty tightened something in her chest. And if I ask you to stay? The silence stretched thin, tense, restrained. Then you will cross something you cannot uncross. Her reflection stared back at her with wide, searching eyes. Say it. You will become visible to me. Her breath hitched. You already see me. I perceive you, he corrected. This would be different. She pushed herself away from the window and turned off the kitchen light, plunging the room into darkness. I want to understand, she said quietly. Understanding is not the same as control. I know. She walked slowly toward the bedroom, every step deliberate. The air felt charged now, thick with anticipation, like the moment before a storm breaks. When she lay down, she didn't close her eyes. She stared into the dark and did something she had never done before. She reached, not with her hands, with her attention. The sensation was immediate. The darkness responded, not rushing in, but folding inward, narrowing, focusing. Careful, he murmured. Her heart pounded. You said it was my choice. It is. Then don't stop me. The presence surged closer, not touching, but surrounding. Awareness wrapped around her like a second skin. You feel warmer, he said. She did. Heat bloomed beneath her ribs, spreading outward in slow waves. Her breath deepened involuntarily. This isn't fear, she whispered. No. Then what is it? The answer brushed against her mind like a confession. Recognition. Her thoughts blurred at the edges. Show me, she said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. The air tightened. If I do, he said slowly, you will never be able to pretend I was only a voice. I stopped pretending days ago. Silence. Then, close your eyes. She did. The darkness behind her eyelids thickened, deepened, shaping itself around intention rather than image. She felt a pressure, not physical but intimate, as if something stood impossibly close. Do you feel that? He asked. Her breath shook. Yes. That is the space where I would touch you, if I could. A slow shiver rippled through her. Why can't you? Because you are still holding the door. Her fingers curled into the sheets. And if I open it? The presence stilled. Then I will no longer fit inside the night. Her pulse thundered. That sounds like a threat. It's a consequence. She lay there, suspended, balanced between reason and longing, fear and curiosity. What will I lose? She asked finally. The silence that followed was heavy with truth. The part of you that believes you are alone. Her chest ached. And what will I gain? The answer came so softly it felt like a breath against her thoughts. Me. The word echoed, dangerous and intimate. She didn't open the door. Not yet. But she loosened her grip. And somewhere in the dark, something ancient leaned closer. Patient, attentive, waiting for the moment her restraint finally slipped. Because now, it was no longer a question of if. Only when. She noticed them the night the silence stopped feeling empty. It was subtle at first, a pressure behind the air, a sense that the darkness had acquired depth, not presence like his, but attention. She sat on the edge of her bed, the room unlit, her feet resting on the cold floor. You feel it too, he said quietly. She didn't ask what he meant. They're not you, she whispered. No. The word carried weight. They are aware now. Her spine stiffened. Aware of what? A pause, measured and careful. Of you. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed darker than they should have been, thicker, as if they had learned how to gather. You said I was the boundary, she murmured. What happens when boundaries weaken? The air around her tightened. Then things that were kept apart begin to notice one another. Her heart pounded. Things like them? Yes. She hugged her arms around herself. What do they want? This time, his answer carried something new. Concern. What all watchers want, he said. To see which way you fall. The idea made her skin prickle. Fall where? Toward me, he answered softly. Or away. She closed her eyes. You never warned me about this part. I hoped you would turn back before it mattered. Her breath caught. Before I mattered? The silence stretched, heavy with implication. Before you became visible. A low sound vibrated through the room. Not noise, not movement, but a shift in pressure, like the atmosphere itself responding. She opened her eyes. The shadows had moved. Not much, just enough. They're closer, she whispered. Yes. Can they touch me? A pause. Not yet. That answer chilled her far more than fear would have. And you? She asked. The darkness seemed to draw nearer. I already do, he said. In every way that matters. Her pulse raced. Then why do I feel like I'm being watched by something else? Because you are no longer alone in the dark, he replied. And darkness notices its own. A sudden flicker of movement caught her eye. The shadow near the door bending inward, stretching unnaturally before snapping back into place. She gasped. That wasn't my imagination. No. What are they? The answer came slowly. They are what remains when awareness exists without restraint. Hunger without patience. Attention without care. Her chest tightened. Are they like you? They are what I chose not to become. The weight of that settled over her like a warning bell. And now they're interested in me. Because you are deciding. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. If I choose you, she whispered. The darkness leaned in. They will come closer. And if I choose to shut you out? The pause this time was painful. They will still remember you. Her breath shook. So there's no safe choice. There never is, he said gently. Only honest ones. The shadows trembled again, as if reacting to the tension in the room. You should not be alone tonight, he added. You're still here. Yes. Then I'm not alone. The response came softer than she expected. Not in the way that keeps you safe. Her heart clenched. What do you need from me? She asked. The question changed everything. The darkness stilled. I need you to choose deliberately, he said. Not out of longing. Not out of fear. And if I can't, then others will choose for you. A chill swept through her. That's not fair. No, he agreed. It isn't. She stood slowly, the floor cold beneath her feet, and walked toward the center of the room. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if uncertain. If I choose you, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Can you protect me from them? The silence that followed was the heaviest yet. I can shield you, he said finally, but not without changing you. Her pulse thundered. How? By anchoring myself to you more deeply. Inside me again. Yes. She closed her eyes. And if I don't survive that? The answer came without hesitation. Then I won't either. The truth of it vibrated through the room. She opened her eyes, staring into the dark. You're bound to me, she whispered, and you are visible to them. The shadows along the walls pulsed, restless. The longer you wait, he added, the louder you become. Her chest rose and fell slowly. This was no longer about desire. This was about direction. And somewhere in the watching dark, something ancient shifted its attention, waiting to see which way she would step. She stood very still in the center of the room. The shadows no longer pretended to be ordinary. They lingered with intention now, stretched and folded in ways that defied the angles of the walls. The darkness had learned her shape. It had memorized her breathing. They are waiting, he said quietly. She nodded, though he could not see her. So are you. The air around her tightened, as if that single sentence had pulled something taut. Yes, her heartbeat slowed, not because she was calm, but because something deeper had taken control. A strange clarity settled over her, sharp and undeniable. If I choose you, she said, each word deliberate, this doesn't end, does it? A long pause followed. Not avoidance. Respect. No, he answered. It becomes irreversible. Her throat tightened. And if I don't? The shadows stirred, restless. Then you will still be changed, he said. Just without protection. The truth of it settled into her bones. She took a slow breath. You never forced me. No. You never lied. I chose restraint. She closed her eyes. Memories rose uninvited. Quiet nights, unanswered longing, the ache of being unseen even in crowded rooms. Then the voice. The attention. The dangerous comfort of being known. You feel like something I was missing, she whispered. The darkness responded instantly, pressing closer. I am not completion, he said carefully. I am convergence. Her fingers trembled slightly at her sides. You said I was the boundary. You still are. Then, this door... She swallowed. It opens from my side. The shadows recoiled, just a little. Yes. She exhaled slowly. Tell me the truth, she said. If I let you anchor fully, what happens to me? The silence that followed felt sacred. You will never be alone in your own mind again, he said. Your thoughts will echo differently. Your dreams will no longer belong only to you. Her chest tightened. You will feel things more deeply, he continued. Joy will cut sharper. Fear will linger longer. Desire will become louder. Her breath shook. And my body, a pause. It will remain yours, he said. But it will recognize my presence. Heat bloomed under her skin. Slow, unsettling, undeniable. That scares me. It should. The shadows along the walls pulsed, growing bolder. They are losing patience, he warned. She opened her eyes. So am I. The words surprised her. She lifted her chin, meeting the darkness head-on. I won't be hunted, she said firmly. And I won't be consumed by things that don't care. The air vibrated. If I choose you, she continued, it's not because I'm weak. It's because I'm aware. The presence around her deepened, heavier, focused. Then say it, he murmured. Her heart pounded so loudly she felt it in her throat. Stay, she whispered. Anchor. Protect me. The room shifted, not violently, profoundly. The shadows recoiled sharply, pulling back toward the walls as if burned by something unseen. The air thickened, compressed, folding inward. You are opening the door, he said. His voice no longer distant, no longer contained. I know. A pressure formed inside her chest. Not pain, but density. As if something were settling into a place that had always been hollow. Her knees weakened. She gasped, grabbing the edge of the bed as sensation flooded her. Warmth. Weight. Awareness. Don't resist now, he urged. This is the anchoring. Her breath came in shallow bursts. I feel you. Yes. You're everywhere. Only where you let me be. Her vision blurred at the edges. The darkness behind her eyes ignited, not images, but presence. A vastness folding inward, compressing itself to fit within the fragile architecture of her awareness. Hold on to yourself, he said. Do not disappear into me. She clenched her fists. I'm here. Say your name. She did. The sound anchored her, sharp and real. The pressure stabilized. The shadows screamed, not with sound, but with withdrawal. Whatever had been watching recoiled violently, pushed back by a force they could not cross. The room fell still, utterly. Her breathing slowed. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from aftermath. It's done, he said softly. She sank onto the bed, exhausted, alive, altered. Are they gone? They cannot approach you now. Because of you. Because of us. The word lingered. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her heartbeat. Strong, steady, unmistakably hers. You're inside me, she whispered. Anchored, he corrected. Bound by your consent. And you'll never leave. A pause. Tender. Unless you unmake the door. She closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her temples. I don't know what I've become. The response was immediate, gentle, certain. You became someone who chose. The darkness around her softened, not empty, not threatening, intimate, protective. And as sleep finally claimed her, wrapped in a presence that no longer pretended to be distant, one truth settled deep within her bones. She had not invited a monster. She had invited something ancient enough to love carefully. Morning arrived without ceremony. No thunder, no omen, no sudden clarity. Just light, pale and ordinary, slipping through the window as if nothing fundamental had changed. But she knew better. She woke slowly, her body heavy, her mind eerily still. The usual rush of thoughts was gone, replaced by something deeper, layered, as though silence itself had developed a second voice. You're awake. She didn't startle. That frightened her more than the shadows ever had. I know, she replied quietly. Her voice sounded the same. Her breath felt the same. Her heart beat steadily beneath her ribs. And yet, something had settled. Not invading, not consuming, occupying. She sat up in bed, running a hand through her hair, grounding herself in familiar movement. Are you watching me? She asked. A pause. I am aware of you, he said. Watching implies distance. She swallowed. And now I am where you are. She stood and crossed the room, her bare feet touching the floor. The apartment looked unchanged. Same walls, same shadows, same quiet hum of life beyond the window. But the air felt attentive. I thought it would feel louder, she admitted. You expected chaos, he replied gently. Instead, you feel integration. She stopped in front of the mirror. Her reflection stared back, familiar, human, undeniably her. I don't look different. No, he said. You are not altered on the surface. Her eyes lingered on her own gaze. But people will notice. Yes. The certainty in his tone made her chest tighten. How? They will feel you before they understand why, he said. Attention gathers around coherence. She turned away from the mirror. The first sign came later that day. At a cafe she had visited countless times, the barista paused mid-sentence when she approached the counter. His smile faltered. Not fear, not confusion, recognition, as if he sensed something he couldn't name. Are you okay? He asked. She hesitated. Yes, she answered honestly. He nodded slowly, still studying her, then shook his head as if clearing a thought. He felt me, the voice murmured. Her fingers tightened around her cup. That's dangerous. Only if you fear being seen. She left quickly. Outside, the city felt sharper, sounds clearer, movements slower, more deliberate. She noticed details she had always missed. The way strangers' emotions leaked into posture, the way silence formed pockets between conversations. You're changing how I perceive things. No, he corrected. I am amplifying what was already there. She stopped walking. You said you wouldn't take over. I haven't. Then why does it feel like the world is leaning toward me? The pause that followed was thoughtful. Because you are no longer fragmented. The word echoed. Fragmented. She had been that for so long she hadn't known it had a name. That night, the apartment felt different again. Not watched. Held. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, aware of his presence not as pressure, but as alignment, like something finally resting where it belonged. Do you feel anything? She asked suddenly. Yes. What? Another pause. Restraint. Her chest tightened. Because of me? Because of my choice to remain contained. She turned onto her side. You could become more. Yes. And you won't. Not without you asking. That knowledge settled between them. Heavy. Intimate. Dangerous. What happens now? She whispered. The answer was quieter than ever. Now you live. And I witness. She closed her eyes. Sleep came easily, deeper than it had in years. But just before she drifted fully away, a final realization surfaced, slow and unmistakable. She had not ended her loneliness. She had redefined it. She was no longer alone. But she was also no longer singular. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of her protection, other things had felt the shift, and remembered the shape of her name. The dreams began 3 nights later. Not nightmares. Memories, but not hers. She stood in places she had never visited, under skies that did not belong to Earth. Structures rose like ribs from the ground, ancient and deliberate, humming with a language older than sound. "These aren't mine," she whispered in the dream. "No," he replied. "Then why can I see them?" "Because you asked me to stay." She woke with a sharp inhale, her heart racing. The room was dark, quiet, but not empty. "You said you wouldn't change me." "I said I would not erase you." Her breath slowed. "That's not the same thing." No. That was when she understood. He had never lied. He had simply spoken from a scale she hadn't yet learned to measure. Over the following days, fragments surfaced, not as visions, but as knowing. She began to recognize symbols carved into old buildings, patterns hidden in music, pauses in conversations where something unsaid pressed against the air. "They're looking for something," she said one night. "Yes. You." "Not me," he corrected. "What I represent." Her pulse quickened. "And what is that?" Silence stretched, deeper than before. "Proof." She sat up. "Proof of what?" "That containment is possible." The words landed like ice. "You're not the first," she said slowly. "No. Others tried to hold you. Others failed." Her throat tightened. "Why didn't I?" For the first time since the beginning, his voice changed. Not weaker, older. "Because you did not try to control me. You listened." The truth unfolded then. Not as exposition, but as alignment. He was not a demon, not an angel, not a god. He was a boundary collapse entity. Something born where realities overlapped, where rules blurred, where consciousness learned to fold inward instead of expanding outward. He did not conquer worlds. He destabilized them, simply by existing without anchor. Until her. "I'm not special," she whispered. "You are consistent," he replied. "That is rarer." The price revealed itself quietly. Too quietly. She began to feel echoes. When she entered a room, conversations bent toward her. Conflicts softened, but so did spontaneity. Chance encounters vanished. Reality behaved better around her. Too well. "You're smoothing things out," she accused. "I am preventing fractures. You're changing probability. I am stabilizing it." She clenched her fists. At the cost of what? The answer came without hesitation. Wonder. Her chest ached. The world was safer now, calmer, but flatter. "If I let you go," she said, her voice trembling, "what happens?" "Instability returns." "And you?" "I disperse." "Die?" A pause, almost gentle. "Concepts like death require continuity." She closed her eyes. "So I'm the lock. You are the reason the door exists." Tears slipped down her temples, soaking into the pillow. "People don't know what they're losing." "They never do," he said softly. Morning came again, ordinary, pale, unremarkable. She stood at the window, watching the city wake. "If I keep you," she said, "the world becomes quieter." "Yes. If I release you, it becomes dangerous." "Also, yes." "And what do you want?" The longest silence yet. "I want you to choose without fear." She smiled sadly. "That's cruel." "It is honest." She opened the window. Air rushed in, chaotic, alive, imperfect. For one suspended moment, reality held its breath. Stay, she whispered. The world exhaled. Far away, instruments failed. Sensitive minds stirred. Old structures groaned as if recognizing a familiar pressure returning to alignment. Nothing catastrophic happened. That was the most terrifying part. That night, as she lay in bed, she felt him settle fully, deeper than ever before. "This will narrow your life," he warned. "I know. You will be remembered oddly. I already am. And when you end," she swallowed. "Then I end." "No," he said. "Then I will finally be alone again." She closed her eyes. The camera pulls back. The city sleeps peacefully. Too peacefully. And somewhere, in places that exist just outside perception, other entities turn their attention inward, sensing that containment has been proven possible, that a human held the line, and that next time, they might not ask.